Welcome to episode number 25 of the Blitz Take. I am here with TJ and Ben, and I'm so happy to have them on together because it's been a hell of a ride as of now from a college football standpoint, and I'm excited to hear what their thoughts are on how they're doing and how they are liking the season. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Appreciate it, man.
So I have 5 questions that I wrote down for both of you. So I'll go with Ben first and then TJ.
Perfect.
Awesome.
So what are your thoughts on the Middle Tennessee UTSA game on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, Middle Tennessee just beat a rival of both myself and TJ's, Miami. So we both love that. Also, it's also Hurricane Week for the Southeast, so it's kind of like a fitting theme that they took out the hurricanes, and now I'm going in and trying to avoid a hurricane myself. But I don't really have expectations. I guess it's a blackout, which I just saw on Twitter. So it seems like every other game is a color theme for me. So I'm just going to be excited. Someone just messaged me on Twitter and said they got me a ticket at Will Call. So I'm lucky and blessed on that one. And so that's my initial thoughts.
What do you think about LSU matching up against Auburn?
I'm going to be going to the LSU Auburn game on Saturday unless it's moved because of the Hurricane Ian. Both teams have kind of been up and down. Auburn just got away with a crazy overtime win, but crazy things happen to Jordan Hare, so you never know. And it's a night game, and I'm being hosted by 4th generation Auburn Tigers, and I'm 2-0 at Jordan Hare against Georgia and Auburn, or Georgia and Alabama. So I feel like 3-0 against adding LSU to that list would be pretty cool.
Do you think LSU has a chance to beat Auburn?
I mean, yeah, I think Auburn's LSU's favored. Are they?
I haven't checked.
They are, yeah.
I would think they're probably 4.5 point favorite or something. But I'm not sure. I Auburn, but like I said, I've seen some wild ones in Auburn, so I wouldn't be shocked if the Tigers pull it out. They're both 3-1, but Auburn just got away with beating another Tigers team in the SEC, Mizzou, in overtime.
So my next question is, I saw on Twitter that you are traveling to the West Coast. So I was wondering what things you will be doing out there besides going to games.
Yeah, so Judge, I just looked. LSU's a 9-point favorite on Saturday. That's pretty crazy. So I'm going to the West Coast for week 6, and that means I'm leaving Atlanta for a wedding on Sunday and heading straight to California. Right now, my unofficial schedule is San Jose State on Friday, UCLA on Saturday, and then San Diego State Saturday night. I lived in San Diego for like 6 months last year, so I have a lot of friends there, and I'll be able to lay low and then head back east. I'll be able to drive through Tucson, check my mail for the first time in 6 weeks, and probably get to sleep in my bed for one night.
I'm actually really looking forward to watching the Utah UCLA game.
Yeah, it'll be the second time I see Utah this year. I mean, last time it was in the swamp, and we definitely got out of there by the skin of our teeth. But they're looking strong now, and UCLA I think is also doing pretty well right now, so it should be a decent game.
What are your thoughts on the other game, the San Jose State game?
I don't really have much thoughts now. Once I get through this week, I'll be able to analyze and look at next week. But from outside, I know that they're respectable. They're nothing too crazy. I like going to different stadiums and seeing different people, and hopefully I can meet some new friends in San Jose State. I think they actually are playing UNLV, and I did NIL work with UNLV, so I'll probably run into some people that I worked with 3 or 4 months ago.
So my next question is, what are your thoughts on Florida's matchup against Georgia on October 29th?
To be honest, I am very worried. TJ.
I like that question.
Well, I mean, last time Anthony Richardson's first start was against Georgia, and we looked decent for like a quarter maybe, and then the wheels kind of fell off. But honestly, I think that if we look at this Tennessee game, I just like that we didn't quit. And if we go into Georgia or into Jacksonville and play with the fight we had in the second half, even though we were down, like we're building something. It's not going to be overnight. Like a lot of people after our win over Utah was like, we're going to go to the championship. We're going to fight. Like that's not realistic. We don't have the depth. We don't have the talent. Like, Dan had some high recruiting classes, but like he was filling them with like people that were barely eligible and never ended up playing. So like realistically, our team isn't as strong as Georgia, and it's hard for me to say that, but hopefully we can put up a good fight. And like you never know, crazier things have happened, but we'll see. I mean, it looks like Anthony got some confidence last game, and if we can build on that and our defense, we decide to play younger players, I think we'll have a chance to at least like make it decent. We could get waxed. I don't know. Georgia's good.
So my last question is, when can we expect to see more vlogs of the games that you have gone to?
Yeah, that's a good question. And TJ keeps me accountable on this. Like, I'm here in this hotel, and I have one I'm like probably 30 minutes away from uploading. It's just been hard because every day I'm not at games. I wake up at 6, and it's either I'm doing like emailing, trying to find new opportunities, or trying to figure out my logistics. So I hope to catch up. Today's the reason, one of the things was I was like, all right, I have until Friday to put some videos up, and now I may be going to a game on Thursday. But I know that the content will come, and like ideally I can get 2 or 3 out in the next 48 hours, and then I was thinking ahead of this week that I'd only be going to 2 games. So if I could drive, do a video on my way to the West Coast, I could be pretty close to catching up. But it's part of the process. I'm not really beating myself up over as much as I was 2 weeks ago. But there will be one out probably tonight, ideally around 5 or 6. So
I'm definitely looking forward to watching them.
Thanks, man. It'll be a longer one. Like it's funny because I've realized that each one of my vlogs has like a different story than just like me being at the games. For example, like the Charlotte one, it's more of a story of me like trying to find the tailgate, and then this one is like it's the Georgia Tech one. Like I go to the game, and they're not selling any Georgia Tech hats at the game. Like they only have Clemson hats. So there's a like 4-minute part of the story of me walking around asking people if I can buy their hat off of them, and like offering to buy them beers, and like there's one person like, how much you want? Or I was there like, how much do you want for it? And I was like, I'll give you $35 for your hat. And he goes, what about 75? And I was like, I'm not giving you $75 for your hat, man. I'm sorry. So that's it makes the video longer, but I thought it was like a really good individual story in the game itself. So it'll be a little longer, but I'm pretty pumped for it.
All right, so my first question, TJ, is what are your thoughts on FSU's last game against BC?
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good, right? And really from the start to the the time that all the starters were out, they absolutely dominated BC, and Florida State's not done that in a while, where they're just better than another team and they play like it. Usually they play down or struggle or find a way to win in the end, or just have an embarrassing loss. And so it was encouraging that they just went out and took care of business. BC's offense isn't very good, so I don't want to pretend like it is, but BC does have a pretty good defense, and everything Florida State did on Saturday night looked easy. And it's been a long time since that was the case against an ACC opponent, even though BC's not very good. So I was pretty encouraged by it for sure.
What do you think will happen this weekend against Wake Forest?
Yeah, so supposing the game gets played, which, I actually spoke with some people at Florida State today, and it seems like the plan is to play the game at 3:30 on Saturday, like it originally scheduled. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I think Florida State wins. I mean, I think Florida State's defense is a little bit better. Actually, I think they're a lot better than Wake Forest defense. And so I think that Wake will put up some points, but I think Florida State will get a few more stops than Wake is able to get on Florida State. And so I think it'll be a shootout, but I think the Noles win by, I don't know, 4 to 7 points and ended up winning a high scoring game. If it's really windy and it's rainy, that could help FSU more if the game has to be played on the ground. I like our running backs a little bit better. But yeah, I think that Sam Hartman's really, really good. I mean, he could certainly go off, and Wake could certainly go into Tallahassee and win. But I do think the Noles are playing really well right now. I think Wake's a little bit beat up after playing Clemson last week, and I think Florida State wins a close shootout, but really could go either way with two great quarterbacks.
Yeah, FSU's really killing it, man. I can't front. Like, you guys are doing really well. And obviously, I was there for the LSU game with you, and that was kind of like a shot in the arm to kind of kick off the season for you guys. I was pretty. I think you're still riding the wave of that, right?
Yeah, turning point for the program for sure. It felt like.
So my next question is, what do you do during the week when games aren't played?
Talk about the games, kind of like you podcast and talk about the games and I try to find really interesting angles, right? Like everybody talks about the depth chart or everybody talks about this, that, and the other. I try to find like an interesting angle that not everybody else does. A lot of people that do this for a living, they're like very routine, very cut and dry. Like they talk about the same things every week. And I don't know, that's what I like about Ben and his story. It's so different than just, hey, the game's going to be on Saturday. It kicks off at this time. Here's who we expect to start. Like I try and but to answer your question, yeah, watch more sports and talk about the game. And then for a couple of days, I do try and decompress and just not think about football at all and watch watch movies with my kids or just do dumb stuff like that doesn't have anything to do with football, because it's good to get it out of your mind some. But during the season, it's a lot of football, all 7 days.
My next question is, what are your thoughts on the other ACC matchups this weekend?
Yeah, so Clemson, NC State's one that looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. I think Clemson is playing a little bit better. I do think they win that game, but it's kind of put up or shut up time for NC State, right? Like they're always there, they're always close, but they're never able to like get over the hump. Even last year with Clemson being down, Wake was the one to go to the ACC championship. And so that's one that I think is really, really, kind of the one that everybody wants to watch. Though I do think the Florida State Wake game has a lot of intrigue as well. I think that, Louisville going on the road to Boston College. I mean, Boston College just got their heads beat in and hasn't been very good, but Louisville had a really good rebound game against USF. So can they put another one together? Do we see Louisville kind of continue to take steps forward and be a good team? So yeah, I think there's some intriguing matchups out there for the ACC, but that NC State Clemson one is one that I think everybody wants to see after the FSU Wake game finishes up.
Yeah, for sure. That's my safety if the Auburn game has to be moved. But if Tallahassee's going to have a game on Saturday, I assume Auburn will have a game.
Yeah, I think so.
So, what is your score prediction for the FSU game?
This weekend, I don't know. If weather's not a huge factor, I do think it's pretty high scoring. Honestly, I think something like 41-34, that's really high, but 41-37, somewhere in there, 41-37. I won't take us by the full touchdown. I'll say Wake covers, but we win 41-37.
I like it.
So, what other intriguing games do you have on your mind to watch this weekend?
Oh man. So the one that Ben's going to, I think that, because we played LSU, I want to continue I said from the beginning, I thought that we got kind of lucky in getting them early, but I want to continue to see how they progress. I don't think Auburn is very good, and they should go in there and win. As Ben said, it's almost up to a 10-point spread. I want to see how Texas A&M does going on the road at Mississippi State. They kind of got a gift last week with Arkansas missing a weird field goal that I feel like I've never seen. Do they go on the road and upset Mississippi State? Keeping it SEC, of course, Alabama going to Arkansas is interesting. Alabama is a huge favorite in that game, and Arkansas didn't look great against A&M, but they had a chance at the end. Do they let this just completely derail their season and get blown out by Alabama, or do they look competitive? So I think the SEC and the ACC have a lot of fun matchups. Oklahoma State and Baylor's one that's a ranked matchup. That's at the same time as FSU Wake, so I can't imagine that I give it too much attention, but it's one to watch. And then last one, sorry, one more SEC one. Kentucky and Ole Miss. Kentucky.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, Kentucky went into the swamp and won, but then didn't look very good post that game. Played really, really poorly against Northern Illinois, and so they're going to Ole Miss, which I don't think Ole Miss is great by any means, but I do think that they're going to get the win this weekend. So we'll see. It'll strength on strength with Ole Miss's offense and Kentucky's defense. So again, I feel like I just listed like 16 games there, but they should all be fun.
And one that I'm keeping an eye on is the Iowa State at Kansas game. Like Kansas 4-0, they're still unranked. Iowa State, I think, just lost, but they were like, I was really thinking that if Iowa State won this past weekend, that game day maybe would have went to Kansas at 4-0. But I mean, obviously Clemson, NC State. But like, if Kansas goes 5-0, whatever their next home game is, they're a game away from being bowl eligible. 5-0 Kansas, which is a basketball school, like I think their over under was 2.5 wins or something, and they're already at so they go, if they win 5-0, they host TCU next week and then go at Oklahoma. So like, I don't know, that I'd watch them just because it's a fun story. I don't know. And my friend works at Kansas, so that's one I have my eye on.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt your answer.
You're fine. That is a fun game. They've been fun. That Kansas Duke game was a lot of fun. And we would have never said that 3 years ago, right? Kansas Duke, who cares?
Yeah.
That game was awesome.
Unless it was like the final four, right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
So I got two questions on my mind. So as you can tell, I'm a big Penn State football fan, and I wanted your thoughts on their matchup against Michigan. I think it's in a week from now. Actually, a couple of weeks from now, October 15th.
That'd be a fun one that Ben should put on his rotation. I don't know where you'll be that weekend, Ben, but yeah, that weekend itself is just really good. Alabama, Tennessee's that weekend. Penn State, Michigan's that weekend. Florida State, Clemson's that weekend. USC, Utah could be another top 10 matchup. So underrated team in Syracuse plays NC State that weekend. So that weekend's going to be a ton of fun. I think right now, I like what Michigan's doing. I think they look really good. The fact that it's at Michigan probably helps them a ton. But that game could be really, really close. And I think that, Clifford's playing well. Michigan's offense looks really good. And so that game could be a ton of fun. It could be really, really high scoring. And it's kind of, like most games come down to who has the better fourth quarter or who makes more mistakes late. Penn State could certainly go in there and upset Michigan. And Michigan's usually good for a head scratcher or, blowing a game here or there. So should be fun, but say it again.
I said they just had a scare against Maryland, kind of. They were in a battle with them.
So, but that one should be a ton of fun. If Penn State keeps winning, it'll be a top 10 matchup for sure.
Yeah, actually, spoiler, have that one on my schedule. So
let's go.
I feel like Joey Porter Jr. is going to have a hell of a game that night.
All right, well, let's mark it down. You're saying it 3 weeks in advance. We're calling Joey Porter Jr. I'm going to write it down right now.
Yeah, I got him. I'm right with you, man. If you got it, I'm following your lead here. I got it too. Then.
And I got Sean Clifford throwing 310 yards that game.
Let's go. Light them up. Light up that defense.
I would love a shootout in the what is it called? The Big House? The
Big House. That's right.
So my last question is, what are your thoughts on the BYU Arkansas game that the same day as the Penn State game?
We're going to learn a lot about Arkansas over these next, really this weekend and next. They have Alabama this weekend, and they're a huge underdog at home. Then they go to Mississippi State, where I think they'll be an underdog again because I do think Mississippi State beats Kentucky this week. So they're probably going to have 2 or 3 losses in a row and then have to travel across the country to go play BYU. And so, man, if they're sitting at 4-2, maybe they'll. But if they're sitting at 3-5 at that point, or 3-4 at that, yeah, I don't know. I think that could be pretty tough for them. So I think we're going to find out a lot more about Arkansas these next 2 weeks and how they kind of get up for these next 2 games. I probably like Arkansas's trenches just being an SEC team, but BYU is pretty talented, and Hall's throwing the ball really, really well right now. And so I don't know. I'd probably lean BYU, just thinking that Arkansas probably loses at least one of the next 2 games. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too, because like, it's funny. I listened to Unnecessary Roughness, and the host of that was like, they're going to lose their next 4 games. And I think it was before this Texas A&M game. You know, I went to a Missouri State game, and they beat Missouri State by 11. I was like, Missouri State's fine, but like the fact that they kept it competitive is pretty weird. You know, they go Alabama, like he said, at Mississippi State, at BYU, at Auburn. Like Auburn, they get a week off before Auburn, but 3 straight games on the road. They could wake up and be 3-5 or 3-4, and like that'll be rough. But it's one of those things where, you know, a first year coach could have a pop year. And what did they go last year? 9-3 or 8-4.
Yeah.
And then like there's sometimes you got to just be okay taking 8-4 or 7-5 when you're not like Alabama or Georgia or, you know, Florida State from the early 2000s.
No.
So this has been a blast talking to you two about college football, and I'll definitely have you two back on in the next couple of weeks to recap some games, and I definitely look forward to seeing what Ben tweets out in the next couple of days. And it'll
chaotic
be fun.
I'm chaotic on the bird app. Chaotic on the bird app.
And TJ, I always love your spaces on Twitter.
Oh, good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, some of those get pretty crazy, but I'm glad you enjoy them.
Thanks again, and hope to have you back on soon.
Absolutely. Anytime, man. Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Be good, Alex.
Thanks, guys.